Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. Before we continue, I urge you to please press the like button so we can get the algorithm going. And if you're new to my channel, I also urge you to please subscribe. I have a question. I have a question on Ukraine. This question has to do with corruption in Ukraine, and because that's a topic that dominated the news cycle today. And I want to ask, do you think Ukraine has been judicious in the use of money that it has received in the past 3.5 years? Ukraine has received well over $300 million billion dollars, forgive me, in aid in the form of military aid, administrative aid, support for the payment of salaries, support for payment of pensions, support for the repair of infrastructure. Ukraine has received a lot of money. Germany has contributed over 40 something billion, for between 40 to 45 billion. Britain has contributed around $12 billion. The US, by the reckoning of President Trump, has contributed about $300 billion. There's been a lot of money that has flown into Ukraine in the past 3.5 years. We really don't know the exact amount. Several countries have pitched in a lot, but whatever you say and however you look at it, it's a lot. It's much more than what Ukraine used to make and get from running itself, from its own economic output for a long time, because it went into a war with Russia, and the whole West backed and supported Ukraine. So they pitched in and they gave Ukraine a lot of funds, military funds, and also administrative funds. So the question is, after all these years, do you think that Ukraine has used this money judiciously? Unfortunately, there's been no accountability to the monies that has gone to Ukraine. We don't really even know how much. That's how come we can say they ask these questions. The very fact that we don't even know the amount that may have gone into Ukraine shows that there's no accountability. And this has raised concerns, especially among the members of the Trump administration, no less a person like the FBI director, Kash Patel, has also said that he has said it long before he even became the FBI director, that there should be some form of congressional oversight, some form of accountability. And that oversight and need for accountability spurred the anti-corruption agencies in Ukraine earlier this year to start investigations. We know them, NAPU and SAPU. There was a big crackdown on them. In fact, they were co-opted into the president's office and practically made sub-units of the president's office until there was a big outcry and uproar in the international space. And that made them to gain back their independence. So today we got to learn that they carried out a very big raid on one of Zelensky's very, very, very close partners. He didn't wait to find out. He fled Ukraine when he heard that investigators from the National Anti-Corruption Agency Bureau were closing in on him. He fled. Ukraine has had a long history of being perceived as being corrupt. In fact, most of the countries following this collapse of the Soviet Union tended to fall under that viewpoint by a lot of people. And Ukraine also was perceived to have a high level of corruption. In fact, Ukraine is considered to be about 104 out of 185 countries in the corruption index. They are by far among the most corrupt countries in Europe. At least that's how the Transparency Index places them. So with all this money going into Ukraine and no accountability, and any attempt for accountability there was a big pushback, especially in the American Congress. We should remember that a lot of people support the Ukrainian cause in Congress. Lindsey Graham, Richard Blumenthal. He has bipartisan support in Congress and in the Senate. But for opponents of Zelensky, those in America whose voice is not so loud, because the policy during the Biden administration was one of unfettered donation of America's funds to the Ukrainian cause. The whole idea was to destroy Russia and bring down Putin. So there was unfettered release of funds. The last being the $61 billion that was released just before Biden left office. Any attempt to call for congressional oversight, congressional investigation into how the monies are being used in Ukraine was met with derision and pushback. But slowly, we are getting to see a shift. President Trump, I have said, has become duplicitous. He has become a politician. He has transited very fully from being a businessman, an entertainer, to now being a politician. He wants to carry on investigation, and he's getting back at all those institutions and people who undermined him in his first term. We already know what's happening to the people who orchestrated the Russiagate. We are also now seeing all the media houses that sold that Russiagate lie. They are all paying. They are all paying. Somehow they are paying. I'll get to the issue regarding BBC later on, but the BBC too may soon be paying. So that's just what we see now. And in his first term, what he did was that he asked for investigation regarding what happened with Biden and Hunter Biden. And what did he get in return? He got impeached. Corruption is very strong. And the reason why he was impeached, or what he was investigating, was in anti-corruption findings regarding the Burisma, the company that Hunter Biden was a part of their board and management. Corruption. And they always accused the Biden family of having corrupt dealings in Ukraine. That was one of the big sins. Now, since they are not going to investigate, President Trump has decided to set the ball in motion. Zelensky's ally flees from Ukraine before FBI-linked media linked search. Businessman Timur Mindich is reported to have fled the country following a tip-off that the National Anti-Corruption Bureau was investigating him, and they were going to raid his house and check. And ultimately, we got to see what the anti-corruption body found in his house. They found quite a lot. They found a lot that was quite implicating. But of course, what they would just be doing at this point is just collecting evidence. But the fact that he didn't wait to find out what and defend himself has already somehow made him look like he's guilty. Mindich is a long-term ally of Vladimir Zelensky. And the operation was conducted by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, as I said, and it is reported to be a wider investigation carried out by the FBI. So this is Mindich. He has been a long-term friend of President Zelensky. Him and him were in. We should know that before Zelensky became president, Zelensky was a comedian. He had a show, and that show was long running. It was a very moderately successful show, and he has quite a lot of members of the production of that show in his government now. These are some of the evidence gathered by the anti-corruption body when they got to his house. And they also found something else. They found a golden toilet. They found a golden toilet and a BJ, and they found cache of money. This is very indicting. very, very indicting to President Zelensky. Zelensky has said that they should all cooperate with NABU. His attempt at the first time to stifle NABU and SABU failed. So now he's saying that they should cooperate. I've always said that President Trump is taking his pound of flesh in his own little way. One, he has stopped funding the Ukrainians, and cleverly, it took him time to creatively find a way to send it to be the project of the Europeans, since they were very invested in it. They had historical hatred for Russia, and they wouldn't even allow any pathway towards dialogue and peace. So he just farmed it out to them that he may as well carry it on. Then now he's slowly beginning to find out how $350 billion, as he continues to say, has been used. But while all this is going on, Mendici he left the country even before the investigators got to his house, and he just fled. But we will be getting more information now. Now that we know that this investigation is being done under the auspices of the FBI, it's very ominous. The FBI has started to do what the Congress and Senate committees that should have been investigating the release of funds and having oversight over this release of funds, they are not doing. The FBI has used the constitutionally constituted body in Ukraine to start to push for that. Let's go into the battlefield now. It just emerged today that if you look at the map of Ukraine, they've lost quite a lot of territory over the past year. And I just came by this story that said that since the fall of Vuhledar back in October 2024, Russian forces have advanced approximately 75 kilometers westward. At the current pace of advance, if it continues, Russia will reach the city of Zaporozhye at the end of 2026. The way the war is going and advancing, I doubt if 2026 is a date that will it's not too far in. My take is that it may just happen before then, because it seems like we are at an inflection point now, and the Russian and the Ukrainian army is almost breaking down. They are almost breaking down. They are being one thing. The line of contact is extensive, over 1,300 kilometers, very long, and the Russians are opening up fronts all across, putting pressure on the Ukrainians. And today we even found out that the Russians opened up a new front, went and took some cities just across the border, and there was no Ukrainian defenders in those cities, in those towns, albeit they were very small towns. But they can continue to push from those areas and go into other places. So when we look at it, we see the Sumy direction, they are making progress there. The group in charge of that place is the Seva group of forces. And while the Ukrainians are trying to do their best to try and attack them, they repelled them. Volgorod is the most harassed of all the Russian regions, because it's a very close border with Ukraine. They are peppered all the time with HIMARS, peppered with drones, and they are the ones who suffer attacks on their own energy infrastructure, and all the refineries and fuel depots within Volgorod have been visited by Ukrainian drones. So the Ukrainian air defense is very active in that region, and they do their best to try and intercept the continuous harassment of ever-improving Ukrainian drones. We should know that Ukrainian drones are improving markedly. The whole of Europe is helping them in improving it, getting feedback regarding the air defense systems of Russia and making them more potent. Kharkiv too, the Seva group too, is advancing. They moved in Volchansk, they moved in Sinelnikovo, and they continue to move. They are moving in. In Kupiansk, they made a lot of advance in Kupiansk. The Zapad group of forces improved their tactical positions, repelling enemy counterattacks and liberating additional territories near the Oskol River. They have crossed the Osko River. They have made sure that the Ukrainians are having a good time trying to escape. I mean, a very hard time trying to escape, and they are pushing forward. First, holding off the counterattacks by the Ukrainians, and also continuing with the encirclement of Kupiansk. The same thing too in Seversk. There, the center group of forces continue their offensive operations, and they too are making progress there. Like I said, these cities and towns are a little bit hard for me to pronounce, but Dronokova and Zanokova, Zvanovka. I'll get it right one day. I'm new into calling Ukrainian names. Soon I'll be an expert in it, so forgive me. And this progress as we see. But let's not think that the Ukrainians are not doing anything. They are unrelenting in their counteroffense. In the Pokrovsk direction, Pokrovsk is a very interesting one now. We now start to see that the Russians are streaming in and working very carefree in Pokrovsk now. They have no fear and no enemy in Pokrovsk. They are completely in charge of Pokrovsk now. And this video here proves it. There's a video of them spilling into Pokrovsk. In motorbikes, in cars and tanks. We see this is the new form by which this war is being persecuted on motorbikes. It's very maneuverable, it's very flexible. The mechanized systems now may not be the best because it started to rain and the ground is getting soft. So those heavy armor systems are not, it's a better. Definitely that proves that Pokrovsk is very much in the hands of the Russians. The center group of forces expanded control of the northern and eastern sectors of the city, mopping up the industrial zones and repelling multiple counterattacks. The counterattacks are unrelenting. In fact, today I had a video of GRU forces. Those are the recognized and sabotage forces. They were found out and destroyed the drones. So even in Zaporozhye, there's still progress. Generally, the Ukrainians are in their back foot, and we can go on and on and on. There are many channels on YouTube that talk about the various progress, the counterattacks, the successes of the Ukrainians to hitting the Russians now and then. But cumulatively, when you do the plus and minus, the Russians are moving in a slow and methodical way and winning the war, no matter what anybody in the West is saying. Regarding the unrelenting bombing and relenting drone attack and missile attack, President Zelensky has put out a tweet that it is very imperative at this point in time that the air over Ukraine is protected. So he says the air should be closed. He doesn't want to give us that frightened the former NATO chairman, which is to say no-fly zone. Now he says we should close the sky to the Russian drones. I wonder how they're going to close the sky. He says closing the sky is a multi-layered approach. Modern aviation must be part of it, and interceptor drones. We already have several companies producing them, and we are manufacturing them itself. So I think I should just put out the tweet here so that we can see what is said regarding the drones. It's quite long, so I won't take everything there, but I'll just put out the points. But at least it says we've been talking about closing the sky since day one. That is no-fly zone. Nobody's going to do a no-fly zone winning. We understand that it's our vulnerability. So generally, it says that Ukraine is vulnerable. They had their own systems. Putin has a large number of missiles. And he said something very pertinent. He said the West have been giving them air defense systems and that they have used those as Ukraine as a guinea pig nation to improve their own air systems, and that their air systems are now 10 times better. but that it falls short. It needs Patriot missiles. In fact, he asked for 25 Patriot missiles, and he appealed to the um, Europeans who have ordered these Patriot missiles well before him. He appealed to them to let the Ukrainians have access, to shunt the line. Today, we want to order 25 Patriot systems from the United States. For us, that's clear budget, and we understand the financial scope. However, certain elements are missing from the agreement. European colleagues can help us here. They can lend us their system now and then take back ours once they arrive from the manufacturers. These systems are produced over several years. I can say one thing. The European nations are very finicky about giving Ukraine air defense systems now. The war is being ratcheted up where they are encountering drones every day, and the drones, we don't know whether it's a fall flag drone. And of all places where the drones just show up, drones showed up in Belgium the other day, and the British have said that they are going to support the Belgians completely in protecting the airspace of Belgium. But we have seen phantom appearance of drones in different countries, Denmark, Germany, all of these countries. It turns out that the Russians had no hand in it. And as this war is going on and Ukraine is finding its way, it's coming to be realized that Poland's support for Ukraine is cracking. Poland has been a big supporter of Ukraine. They have a lot of Poles fighting for the Ukrainians in the Ukrainian battlefront. We should never forget that. And Poland has taken the most amount of refugees. They give them benefits, they give them support. But public backing for accepting refugees fell from 94% in March 2022 to 48% in October of 2025. Well, 50% now of polls now say that benefits are too generous for the Ukrainians. And hate incidents and hate crime have started to rise. This is a poll conducted by an organization called CBOS, and it was reported by Bloomberg. Meanwhile, the Polish Prime Minister, yes, Donald Tusk has said that Ukraine's defeat in the war will lead to a radical deterioration of the situation in Poland. Poland has a very funny relationship with Ukraine. The president of Poland has a very different viewpoint regarding this war from the prime minister. And the president and all the hardliners feel that Ukraine entering the EU will be very detrimental to the agriculture and the well-being, general well-being of Poland. And they, as much as the Hungarians and the Slovaks, have an interest in not allowing Ukraine to become a part of the European Union, even though they are supporting Ukraine now. Donald Tusk is on his own. His people are leaving him. The love of Ukraine is souring all across Europe. We see how it's also souring in Germany. And this is for the ordinary Ukrainians who find themselves now as refugees in all these other countries, European countries, and there are a lot of them. We should know that they have almost 8 million people have left Ukraine since the war started. As all this is going on, who is having good news? Russia. We just got a report that Russia's gold reserve is at its highest since 1995. There's a Bible quote that says, "To those who have, more shall be given. To those who don't, the little they have will be taken away from them." Russia, that is supposed to be suffering from several rounds of sanctions. First, they make so much money in the first years of the war when the first round of sanctions came, and there was a block on buying of Russian oil. Oil prices went up, and Russia made the most amount of money they had made prior to that time. Now, their gold reserves has reached $300 billion, a record for modern Russia's history. Total reserves stood at 726 billion as gold share of all reserves climbed to 41. Russia has been saving its money, and it is for that reason that it saved so much. It saved $300 million now that the Europeans are so intent on trying to for lack of a better word, steal. They want to steal the money. And that is almost not going to happen. But we have a story where the Russians now, very confident in their abilities, their successes in the war, and the machinery that has helped them in achieving this success, are going to one of the world's most premier air shows to go and show off the Dubai Air Show in United Arab Emirates. We hear now that the Russians are going with their vaunted Su-57 and a whole suite of helicopters and ward systems. Alongside the Su-57, Rostec presents a fully West independent innovation. The Russians have made sure that since they were sanctioned, they had to create innovative replacements for all those parts that they have in the systems. Now we know of the alligator, the helicopters, and all the whole suite of weapons that are going on being used in the special military operation. There's the Yak 130M, upgraded fully domestic trainer, light combat aircraft. The Ansat M, versatile helicopter with VK's 650V engines, very agile. The Ka-52 attack helicopter performing aerobic maneuvers. That is the one that we see a lot in most of the. In fact, I have a video of it here, of their weapon systems. So maybe I might as well just show them showing off their agility. It'll be very interesting to see these weapon systems beside Western weapon systems like the Rafale. There will be France, there will be all the usual suspects, America, General Dynamics, and all the companies that produce the same BEA systems from Britain. They'll all be there. They'll all be, and Rostec and all the other producers of Russian weaponry will also be there. They were already, we know what they did in I think, Shanghai Air Show, that one that took place in China, where the Su-57 was showcased. Russia is showing the world that they are maintaining their export market, increasing it, because most of the weapons they are going to show there are proven. They have been proven in the war, and they have been successful. Who did we have visiting America today? The president of Syria. Geopolitics, he has achieved, and then he has now started to see that geopolitics is more complex than he ever thought. He has clear and present challenges with Israel. He also has a reality of a broken economy, a broken country, and but he's getting relief. He came to visit President Trump today in the White House, and President Trump was so gracious to him, welcomed him, and gave him a thumbs up, really gave him a show of solidarity and support. It will be the very first time that a Syrian president will be visiting the White House since 1946. This should not be lost on anybody. This is a really tough time. This is a reinvention of the state. President Trump really wants him to fall into the orbit of the West. He doesn't want him to go into the orbit of Russia, because we saw recently that Russia he met with Putin. He has restated the fact that he would rather keep the Russians in Syria, because he has come to see that reality that he cannot do anything without the Russians. So he's trying to improve his relationship with America. But the Americans are making sure that they hold on clearly to him. He's lucky there's an ideological strand in its own form of Islam. I think Wahhabism, and that fits right to that of Saudi Arabia and that of some of the countries within that Gulf Cooperation Council. And it goes against the grain of Iran. They want him not to get anywhere near the Iranian and the Russian. In fact, today sanctions were lifted, or they were suspended. There was an additional period of time that the sanctions that had been going on, Caesar sanctions. So Washington announced the move, extends pause on Syrian sanctions. Washington announced the move in the same day that President Trump was meeting with him in White House, and they extended this sanctions relief. It's very extensive. They're trying to give the young man a footing, and this is what President Trump had to say about him and the reality he faces.
Earlier, did you come to any agreements today?
Well, I had an agreement with him. He's a very strong leader. He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him. The new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful, because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening.
Well, ending with President Trump has initiated a lawsuit, or threatened one, with the BBC. The BBC doctored a video, made it look like President Trump was inciting the group on January 6th, and made a program out of it. They doctored and edited two statements made 54 minutes apart, and created the impression that he was inciting the crowd. So what did President Trump do? When it came out, it came out from an investigation by the Telegraph. President Trump has threatened that he's going to sue them. Donald Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion. His legal team says, accusing the corporation of trying to interfere in the presidential election last year by selectively editing one of his speeches for a panorama edition. President Trump has been very successful with the media. He got money off of ABC. He got money off of CBS. They're all paying for their past misdeeds. And that's the reason he calls them fake news. Caroline Levitt, his press secretary, has called the BBC to fake news central, 100% fake news. That's what he called them. I conjecture with that. The BBC is a spewer of a lot of narratives-laden news these days, not news anymore. I remember when a very frustrated but very calm President Kagame gave a big rebuke to the BBC. They act with impunity. I also remember when President Obasanjo gave a very big rebuke to Stephen Sanko. The BBC, they need to be managed, for lack of a better word. The British press generally, we see how Prince Harry had to fight tooth and nail to get justice for his wife and for himself. Their narrative-driven agenda is a hazard to the world, especially since the Britain is refusing to realize that they used to be an empire, no more, not as they used to, they once were. In Nigeria, we have a word for it. I get them before. This is where I end my video for today. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until my next video, you have a